Welcome back to the Real Texas Radio Podcast with your host, Bronin. Thank you for tuning in once again. Or if you're joining the show for the first time, 1,000 welcomes. I've got a big show planned, mostly going to be talking about DART, another shooting on the DART. Can you believe it? And also drama at the Dallas County Commissioner's Court. One of the commissioners is being sued. And, well, let's just say personal advances are cited in the lawsuit by the plaintiff. So we're going to be talking about that as well. But before we jump in, if you haven't checked out my column, I am now writing a column on Substack. And I have a couple of columns, actually, DART and Dallas County Commissioner's Court related. So check those out. You can find them by going to X at RTR_Bronin, RTR_Bronin. You can find my Substack there. You can follow me on X. And let's go ahead and get into it. All right, now, you're listening to the Real Texas Radio Podcast. I'm your host, Bronin, just a fed-up taxpayer bringing you all of your Texas, local, and national news. Another shooting on the DART. I know you're shocked. Totally. Yeah. Fair Park Station. The victim lived. So I guess that's a good thing. And a suspect has been apprehended. And I can't find any other information about this incident, really. And how we know about this at all, Laurie Brown at Fox 4, she's a pretty good reporter. But she tweeted out last week, well, I'll just go ahead and read you the tweet. This is from February 4th. She posted this. Man shot on a DART train last night. I can confirm that around 6:40 p.m. there was an altercation at the Fair Park Station. DART spokeswoman says, one person has a non-life-threatening injury. DART PD is working to locate the suspect. Pardon me. So as of February 4th, the suspect was not arrested, as I previously stated. Victim in the hospital. What is this, like the 8th shooting in the last 12 months or so? And most of the shootings on DART, they relate in death. So this person beat the odds. So good for them. But there's no write-up in the Dallas Morning News. And, you know, they have a public editor position, and it doesn't run a column very often, but you know, one of their most recent columns, which, again, this is probably like October or the beginning of November last year, was about, how come the Dallas Morning News didn't get a write-up published quickly on the last 2 DART murders that happened within a week of each other, including the murderer alleged who was wearing the Jason mask and had an AK-47. That was the murder weapon. And then the other guy, he was killed with a firearm. I don't know what kind. And now they're just not going to report this again. And, I wonder, good on Laurie Brown. I can't even believe that she got somebody from DART to talk to her, to even fess up to this incident. So I've been looking around. I've been on Reddit. I tagged a reporter at the Dallas Express who does a lot of investigative journalism around the DART and how they hide crime stats. And I'm hoping that we can get some more information on this. And, Addison, they voted, I think the vote was 5-2, to put DART withdrawal on their next May election. So that's the 6th city, the 6th member city. So basically half of the DART member cities are now fixing to leave, fixing to exit the DART. And, for many reasons, it's definitely the crime. I know that politically it's not palatable to say that. And we know that all these murders, they're happening in Dallas, in or close to downtown. Fair Park is close to downtown. They're not happening at the Plano light rail stations or Irving light rail stations, for example. But you know what I was really thinking about? So we just opened the Silver Line in, I think, October of 2025. I think it took like 30 years to get this brand new light rail line built. It mostly moves through Collin County north of Dallas, but it does flow through Dallas, and it connects Plano, Addison. It eventually terminates at Terminal B, DFW Airport. And Addison, previously to this Cotton Belt, or they used to call it the Cotton Belt, now it's just the Silver Line. I haven't ridden it myself, but they did not have light rail. Addison, it's a pretty small city. I think the resident population it's like 20,000. You know, me from Massachusetts, if you had 20,000 people, that would be a town. So I don't know how it works out that all these places are city, whatever. So they get light rail, and then 3 months later or so, they vote to leave. They don't want it. They've paid for it. They're going to still have to pay for it for several years until their debt is paid off for the DART, or however the financial structure works. But just think about all of the Democrat politicians out in America, and it is their dream, their goal. They salivate about getting light rail in their city, expanding light rail, establishing light rail, high-speed rail, anything like that. It's so trendy. It's so cool. And Addison, they got it. And 3 months later, they're prepared to walk away from it. And I think they have buses in Addison as well. The funding for DART, it's really funded by this penny tax. So 1 penny of the sales tax that cities that they collect, they have it sent over to DART, essentially, and including Dallas. And that means that Dallas is on the hook for, it's, I think, well over $400 million a year at this point. And all of these cities, before they voted, they all said to DART, negotiate with us. We don't want to give you the full penny. This was a structure that was designed in the 1980s, I believe. I think in the 1980s. And only 6% of revenue that DART generates is fares. Because we know that most of the people on DART are homeless, junkie, bum, criminal, vagrant, mental patient, ne'er-do-well, recidivist reprobates. And they don't pay for anything. We pay for them. We support them all day long, every day, every week, every month, everything that they do. We, the taxpayers, support this group, including DART. And these cities, they've just had it. They said, we are done. We have all kinds of other things that we could be doing with this penny. We could be attracting new businesses. We can be investing in other ways. We can be growing our city. And we just had it. We're done with this. And our police, like in Plano or in Carrollton and Farmers Branch, we're sick of our police at the end of the night, or 12:30 at night, when the DART shuts down, having to chase all the bums off and run them out. It's just a nuisance. And DART won't negotiate. And the other piece is the governance. Dallas has, I think, over 50% of the votes. And, if that sounds like it's not fair, again, it comes down to, Dallas is putting the most money into the system. It's holding the bag for most of the funding. So that's why. But these other cities, they want to change that. They want to reduce Dallas's influence on the board. And, the time is ticking down. I don't see how these elections can be canceled unless it happens really soon, like this week. And because the thing is, these ballots are going to be printed up. They're going to have the question, So I think they can cancel. They have a little bit more time to cancel. But look, early voting, I mean, it starts next week. It's the 17th. And pardon me. So the Dart elections, what am I saying? They're not going to be on this primary. This would be May. So I think officially they have till March to cancel the elections, but they're still going to be printing. They really need to make a decision this month, I think. So Plano, they're already looking at. They may already contract with VIA, or Arlington, Texas contracts with VIA. I don't know much about it. They call it a paratransit or a micro transit system, and they're thinking of going with that. Of course, it'd be cheaper. And then it's just a mess. And then over the weekend, there were down in Deep Ellum, or right on the edge of Deep Ellum in the Club District in Dallas on Good Latimer Expressway, directly across the street, or I guess the train station is basically in the median of Good Latimer Expressway, and there was a double stabbing right across the street from the Deep Ellum Light Rail Station. And you know what? I've done some digging, and we can't blame Dart for this one, I don't think. As easy as it would be to do that, you can't blame Dart for this. I think this was unrelated. It just so happened that this club is right across the street or right in front of the Dart station. But, I was just looking up. It's not always easy to find mugshots and find the jail record and find the police reports. And I know all the websites and where to go, but they don't make it easy. They, DPD, they don't usually put a lot of information. It's trying to chase down a narrative. That's really what you want to see, is the police narrative, what went on. And anyway, I was able to find a mugshot for the alleged killer, I guess. His name is like Sergio. I've got it up here. Sergio Neferate. And you know what? Maybe I'll tweet out the mugshot, RTR_Bronin. But I found him on LinkedIn too. 27-year-old kid, finance bro from the Texas area. Doesn't appear to be your run-of-the-mill homeless junkie bum, criminal vagrant, mental patient, ne'er-do-well, recidivist reprobate type of person who would be committing crimes right by a Dart station. Life is totally ruined. Capital murder of multiple persons. That's what he's being charged with. Not a bad-looking kid.
Are you a homosexual?
Hey. None of that. But boy, that mugshot, he looks haunted in it. He looks like he already dropped the soap once or twice. And okay, sorry, family show. I'll leave it at that. But what a mess. And obviously the Dart, they're running away from that. I guess they can't really claim this incident, but they definitely don't want to publicize the Fair Park station shooting. That's for sure, amid all of these cities ready to pull out of the system. And it's just really ridiculous. How many public transit systems in the country? I didn't pull the data on this, but I'm just thinking, does Los Angeles have 8 shootings a year? Does New York have 8 shootings a year? I remember a few years ago there were all the incidents of the homeless junkie bum, criminal vagrant, mental patient, ne'er-do-well, recidivist reprobates shoving people onto the track in front of the train. That was horrible. So, but this Dart, there's just lawlessness, and it's at, the zoo station, which is again fairly close to downtown. Fair Park, Pearl Arts District, and Market Center Boulevard, all different lines, but it's just ridiculous. Okay, I'm going to move on from Dart. I want to talk about the Dallas County Commissioners, and originally I planned the Dallas County Commissioners, for those of you who aren't aware, they are in charge of the jails, they're in charge of the courts, they're in charge of public health, and they're in charge of elections. They've got some other responsibilities as well. But those are really the core functions. Oh, they're also in charge of the Dallas County Hospital, Parkland Hospital. And as you know, it's election season here in Texas. We've got primaries coming up. We've got early voting is going to begin on February 17th, and voting day is March 3rd. And apparently, somewhere in Dallas County, there's an election every month, at least one for the next several months. And these counselors, they're all Democrats, by the way, and Calvin Clay, of course, Gavin Newsom wannabe. They're all Democrats. And if you've been following some of the chaos, the Republicans, they wanted to separate their elections. They wanted to have different sites, different polling sites. They wanted to hand count all the votes. And the commissioners, again, all Democrats, they were becoming apoplectic about this because they claimed that they weren't getting cooperation and responsiveness from Republicans. And they're still panicking. And Andy Summerman in particular, the commissioner from District 3, and he was really sounding the alarm. I think it was just bloviating. I don't know how true it was, but essentially claiming that there's not going to be enough Republican poll workers, and that Republican voters are going to show up on election day, and it's going to be all Democrat poll workers, and the Democrat poll workers aren't going to want to assist any Republican voter because they're, and again, this is according to Andy Summerman, that they're going to be too afraid of Ken Paxton, the Texas Attorney General's ire and wrath if there are any questions about shenanigans during voting. And but there's no such thing as an unsecure election. All voting in the United States completely legitimate. There's never any problems. Nothing could go wrong, right? Ever. If you think that there's any fraud or any kind of chicanery going on in U.S. elections, then you're just a conspiracy theorist, right? So anyway, I guess whatever staff member is in charge of elections, the actual county staff, he was called in to give account of what's going on. I guess he's a pretty recent hire. He's only been there since October, but this is John Wiley Price, and we've got some news about him too. This is John Wiley Price. Apparently the Democrats are having problems getting their act together too.
Also, the Democrats would drag ass.
Democrats are drag ass, and that's John Wiley Price, his remarks. And so here's John Wiley Price again scolding this election administrator here.
When I was talking to the last administrator, asked the same dadgum questions. I was told that everything was under control. We had the platinum plan. Were we not told that? You want to go back and look at the tape? Were we told that?
Yeah. And then I just pulled a few cuts. He was getting into it with Andy Summerman. Let me go ahead and see if I have that cut here to play.
When you got I or D or R, you're just operating the dadgum machine. And I'm sure somebody's going to, have observers there. They usually do. Yeah. I'm missing something.
I think what you're missing is the fear of a Democrat running the R side of an election with Ken Paxton on the ballot, and if he loses, them coming after him.
What can they possibly?
Yeah, and I'll play one more here.
That pitch hitting before because we're doing a joint election, and we're voting both R's and D's. The election judge, although they were a Democrat in a joint election, they were proud and pleased to process all R's and D's collectively. Every time. And they would have an army of folks underneath them, the right folks to do it, well-trained, almost all of them D's. And they're voting R's and D's every time in a joint election. But when we have to split the room because they don't trust the jump drive, and as a result, you have to have the D's on one side and the R's on the other because that's the only solution you've got. The R's have to show up and vote and work their polls. They have to show up. And if they don't, disaster happens.
Disaster. It's going to be a disaster. Oh. I somehow don't think it's going to be a disaster. That would be my prediction, but we'll have to see next week. I probably am going to early vote. So anyway, I was doing some more research on that situation. And so I just started Dallas County Commissioner's Court, start my search there. And then you know what pops up? And this is actually from over 2 weeks ago. But John Wiley Price, he is now being sued by a Dallas judge. And do you know which judge it is?
You don't have to whoop everybody's ass.
Yeah, I know you're gonna have to get a little tough here, John Wiley Price. Well, it shouldn't be any stranger to you with that loud mouth of yours, and you know you've been in court before.
You make more damn excuses.
Dallas County District Court Judge Vonda Bailey, does that name sound familiar? Has sued County Commissioner John Wiley Price for defamation, alleging he launched a campaign to damage her credibility and reputation after she did not reciprocate his personal advances. So Judge Vonda Bailey, remember, she is the judge who was posting on Instagram about how she was using her court reporter as a maid, driver, nanny, cook, bringing her to doctor's appointments. And she posts videos of bringing her child into court when the court is empty or a case had to be postponed or something like that. And she's using the court as the personal classroom for her child, who she homeschools. And John Wiley Price, he has admonished her publicly at these commissioners' court meetings multiple times and shown the Instagram videos, posted them, and claims that she doesn't come to work. And so now she's suing him, but this is the twist. So claiming personal advances. So this is the Dallas Morning News that I'm reading this from. I'm going to read a little bit more to you. Price, who served as commissioner for 40 years, did not immediately respond to a call, text, message, or email requesting comment on the lawsuit. In multiple commissioners' court meetings in September, Price questioned Bailey's productivity while displaying her social media posts, including an Instagram video in which she gave hair care tips while in her robe in the courtroom. And you know what? She's not the only judge. Amber Givens, too, the former judge who was suing Dallas County because she wasn't getting her $25,000 bonus because she's declared incompetent to the law. Well, she resigned. She's now challenging John Cruzette, the Soros-funded incumbent Dallas County district attorney. And I've seen her on social media. I get not in the court, in interviews, talking about hair. And you know what? I saw she had a campaign sign that was stuck in a median down on 12th Street in North Oak Cliff, which I believe is a public land. I don't think you're supposed to have any campaign signs on public land. I've seen, it looks like Omar Narvaez, also known as Squidward, the former Dallas city councilor, he's got a huge campaign sign. I tweeted that out, RTR_Bronin, RTR_Bronin. It looks to me like that is in a public land as well. Big sign in Oaklawn, where I assume he thinks he's going to be doing very well as a member of the community. He doesn't live in Oaklawn, I don't believe, but Grand Marshal of the Pride Parade. And he's running for Justice of the Peace, not a lawyer. Basically, Justice of the Peace is a judge. It's kind of like small claims and eviction court. He's not a lawyer. I don't know. Shouldn't you have to be a lawyer to run for a judgeship? Oh well. I hope to never be in JP court. But it would be a big salary boost for Omar Narvaez. I think it pays like $150,000 a year, up from $60,000 as a city councilor, which he complained about his low salary, which is probably more of a salary than most of the people in the district he represented, by the way. Anyway, I'm getting way off topic here. I was talking about John Wiley Price and this Vonda Bailey. So let me skip down to the juicy part. So the lawsuit filed Wednesday, so this would be back in January, because this is a couple or 3 weeks old, in Dallas County District Court by Houston attorney Peter Clark, alleges community members and one local news outlet repeated Price's comments about her clearance rate that he knew were false, impugning her integrity as a judge. When Bailey first ran for the 255th District Court in 2022, the lawsuit alleges Price contributed to her campaign and attempted to cultivate an appearance of political guidance. He stopped by her chambers frequently, bringing lunches and offering unsolicited mentorship, according to the lawsuit. According to the complaint, when Bailey did not reciprocate these overtures, Price's demeanor shifted, and he began a sustained and targeted campaign to damage her reputation. In any case, I will be keeping an eye on that story, on that lawsuit. But I was really looking at Dallas County jail records a lot in preparation for this show, and just looking through mugshots. And I mean, we already know that the Dallas County jail, which I believe they are, I've heard more talk of building a new jail and moving it away from downtown. That I saw COVID Clay Jenkins, the county judge, interviewed a few weeks back, and found myself one of the few times in agreement with him that, yeah, we got to move that jail. It's like the entrance to downtown, and it's got to move. It is just really an albatross around the neck of downtown Dallas, and it's a homeless shelter. It's just a homeless shelter. And you look at the mugshots, and everybody, not everybody, but most, it just looks so drugged out of their minds. Mental patients. I know I'm judging on appearances, sorry. And John Wiley Price, he usually takes the lead on providing the update on capacity at the jail. And the jail is pretty much just about at capacity. It seems like maybe they have 100 beds free, but you know, there are usually 7,000 or so prisoners or inmates at the jail. 800 plus illegal aliens as of the last commissioner's court meeting, according to John Wiley Price. 800 illegal aliens. And what do you think? Do you think they're all grandmothers? You think they were all just pushing the baby out in the stroller, and the big bad mean ICE agents swarm them and just threw the grandmothers in the jail? That's what these dopes would have you believe. All the ICE protests going on. You know what? ICE didn't put a single one of those 800 plus illegal aliens in the Dallas County jail, by the way. I wish ICE would come along and deport them all. ICE is supposed to come and pick them up and get rid of them. But, 800 in the Dallas County jail. So now just think of every county, particularly the urban counties in the United States, and just do a little bit of math. A lot of illegal aliens in jail, but mostly I'm sure it's drugs, DUIs, car-related incidents, or worse, sexual assaults. So, in any case, thank you for tuning in once again to the Real Texas Radio Podcast. Keep tuning in, keep listening. I will catch you on the next episode.